Welcome to Virtually Sunday, a production of Whatsoever You Do Incorporated in Green Bay, Wisconsin. My name's Tony Pickler.
I'm Steve Meyer.
It's really a pleasure to be doing this with Steve. Normally, we do Virtually Sunday as a solo production, and this would be my week, but we're going to try something new.
Yeah, we're mixing this up. We're trying a new format and a little more conversation, a little more just opening it up and understanding the scriptures a little more deeply.
And we'll see how it goes. So this Sunday, we always look forward to what's happening in the gospel reading typically, right? So this Sunday, we have a reading from Matthew's gospel, and it's the baptism of the Lord. Now, sometimes people think the baptism of the Lord is that celebration of that is the end of the Christmas season, which, some people believe that. Some people believe the end of Christmas season is the presentation of the Lord on February 2nd. Some people believe it's the day after Christmas. I don't know. It depends on when you throw your tree out, I guess. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that the people who were there when Jesus was actually baptized weren't thinking about the Christmas season.
They were not, because it's like 30 years later.
Yeah,
whatever.
They hadn't heard of
context
it.
a little bit. Anyway, back to our story of the baptism. We have the story from Matthew's gospel in which Jesus goes to the Jordan River to be baptized by John, his cousin, the Baptist.
Yeah. So there are two questions that jump out at me, Tony. Right. The first one is why. Right? Why does Jesus need baptism? Yeah. Right? I mean, he's Jesus, and even John the Baptist is looking at him going, "Why are you here?" Right? And so that's the first question. Second question is about the Jordan River, and we'll get to that later because that seems so different from the way we would get baptized. Right. So let's look at that first question. Why? Why does Jesus show up to be baptized?
Yeah, it's really interesting because if you look at that scripture reading closely, you see a hesitation on Jesus's part. So I'm like, not on Jesus' part, on John's part.
Right.
Jesus wants to be baptized. John is like asking that very same question you're asking. Why? Why are you coming to me to be baptized? I'm baptizing these other people because it's a purification, right? It's, there's some meaning and purpose about that doesn't necessarily apply to you, Jesus. So it's kind of interesting. Right baked into the story is the question of why baptizing Jesus?
Why would Jesus show up? Why does he need that? Do you have theories?
Well, I feel like Jesus goes to the Jordan to be baptized by John as a sending into his ministry, because what's going to happen right after this is he's going to go into the desert. He's going to spend some time there, get connected to his ministry, and then he's going to be sent out to preach and to heal and to be with people for 3 years. So to me, Jesus's baptism, as it relates to our baptism, is more about sending. It's about purpose. It's about, this is what I'm called to do and called to be, and this is a sign, and this is a way to get me into that.
So he has to enter entirely into his mission, if you will, because I also think that as part of that, this baptism sort of ritualizes the completion of incarnation. That's a lot of churchy language, and I don't like myself for using it. But think about this. So up until Jesus, the relationship between God and the Jewish people was distant, right? There is a distance from God in heaven, people below. There's a gap, and throughout the Old Testament, God keeps calling the people back. The prophets tell us how God is calling the people back, and they start to come back, and then they fall away, and incarnation happens, and God's like, I'm not waiting for you to get to me anymore. I'm coming to you, right? And so it's like this reunification of creator and creation, right? So Jesus comes to baptism not because he needs it, but because he wants it. He wants to be fully one with us, one among us. He wants to complete this unification between the creator and the creation. And what better way to do that than to just immerse himself and take that plunge into those waters of baptism with those people and say, I am here with you, for you, of you, among you. I am all in.
I also find it really interesting towards the end of that story, you have this scene where the creator appears somehow in the clouds or whatever, and makes this pronouncement that Jesus is the beloved Son. And I feel like that's right to your point. There's this reunification of what we would call the heavens and the earth, of God and the created, that all comes together at the end of the story, where it all becomes one. Jesus becomes one with God the Creator, and vice versa.
It's like all one. So now let's jump to that second question about the Jordan River, because the Jordan is very, very different from the purification pools, right? The baths outside the temple area. So you've been there. Tell us about the Jordan River.
Yeah, so I was at the Jordan, and the point that we were at, so I have to put that in context. It was not too far from Jericho. It was a very underwhelming river. I mean, I almost would not even use the term river. There's somewhere between a creek. So I think more like Duck Creek here in Green Bay, Howard, versus the Mississippi. I mean, this is not a major river. It's a little more like a creek, not very wide. You could easily, go across that without any problem.
Right. So for those who are unfamiliar with Duck Creek, right?
Yeah.
You could put a canoe in there, a kayak, but nothing with even a trolling motor, really. I mean, it's a small,
Forgetting that this production is worldwide,
yeah.
what
So,
localized here, right?
so Duck Creek, but that's a good point, because we think rivers, we think the mighty Mississippi, the Colorado, right, and the Ohio River,
Rage.
right, dams, power, right, but we're talking here about really little more than a stream.
Right. So that's the first thing. Underwhelming to me. The second was how brown it was. How flows from Galilee, goes down to the Dead Sea, and it doesn't flow real fast. I'll put it that way. But it also collects. It collects a lot of sediment on its way, and so the water was not clean at all. It was very earthy. It had taken a lot of earth with it on its journey down to the Dead Sea.
I love that word. I love that word, earthy. I'm glad you used it and said it's an earthy river, because this is not a river that is fed by spring water. It is not a river that is fed by pristine snow melt. This is a river that is created from runoff from really a desert area, right? And so you have all of the sediment in the river. What do you make of that? I mean, the idea of going there to be baptized and taking that plunge in that river.
Well, to me, I mean, it symbolizes so much about the life of Jesus, the life of us as followers of Jesus. I mean, let's face it, Jesus's ministry was messy sometimes, right? I mean, he got into some real tough situations. He encountered people that had a lot of needs, a lot of need for healing, and a lot of illness, a lot of disease, a lot just blindness, all this stuff, and we do too, right? I mean, our lives are messy, and so
earthy. Let's use the word earthy. They're earthy.
I mean, our lives are earthy, but it also is messy. And,
Earth is a messy place.
So when you're baptized in a body of water that's not all pure, not all beautiful, not all pristine, but has some earthiness to it, to me, that symbolizes what we're called to be and called to do.
So let's compare and contrast that with the purification pools outside the temple. People came to the temple before they could enter, right? They had to go through the ritual of entering the purification baths. That water was filtered and pristine and clear.
Right. And I was at one of the pools when we were in Jerusalem, and you could tell their system was such that water came out like our purification systems that get installed into our houses. I mean, this water was as pure could be at the time, right? And so that's the water that the Jewish leaders wanted to use for their purification rites, right? So that by using such pure and clean and pristine water, hopefully doing all the right things and doing all the right rituals, it would make them holy and worthy of God,
Right.
worship of God.
So let's just unpack that idea, right? Because the premise is that we're going to use this clean water to wash you, purify you, and you will be more acceptable to God.
Mhm.
And Jesus, he eschews that. In fact, we have stories of him healing people and telling them to skip that, right? And instead, he goes to this muddy, earthy river and takes the plunge all in. So it's like you don't have to become worthy of God. You don't have to become, you know, uh, clean or acceptable because you already are.
And that's why I go back to the scene of God the Creator calling Jesus the beloved Son.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about that notion of being beloved that you don't need pure water to make you beloved. You already are beloved.
Well,
You just need to recognize and accept that fact that you're beloved by God all the time.
and and let's not pretend that that water, because it's earthy, is somehow lesser, right? Because let's go back to the second creation story in Genesis. And what does God create humanity out of? Right? The clay of the earth, right? And he breathes life into it. The Holy Spirit just breathes life and animates that clay and brings it forward, saying that this creation is sacred. This creation is holy. This creation, and in Genesis, what does he call it? Good. This is very good, right? So to pretend there's separation, right, is the opposite of incarnation, right? Because they say, oh, we have this dirty world and this clean heavenly God. And Jesus came to completely erase that gap and say, oh, no, this creation is very good.
Well, and another connection I'd love to make is that the waters of baptism connected to those very last days of Jesus's life, where he takes just ordinary water in a pitcher with a towel and a basin and washes the disciples' feet and says, this is what it's all about, folks. I mean, you want to be my follower? Then do this. Take the ordinariness of our lives, wash each other's feet, serve each other. That's what it's all about.
And we see those same waters echoed throughout the gospel, right? It's the waters of baptism. We have he turns water into wine. We have the waters and the washing of the feet. We have the waters that run out of his side when he's pierced by the Roman soldier. So that living water, that life-giving living water, which is of this earth, and carries the essence or the animation of our life in it.
And I guess that's a challenge for this week, right? Is to be reflecting upon, what does baptism mean to us? What does the elements of baptism and water mean to us? What does the connection to God mean to us? And what does it mean to be a beloved child of God?
It's
to think about.
Yeah, those are great questions, because we're reminded, as you mentioned earlier, that baptism is not an event, right? It's a way of life. It's a path we follow. And not just our own baptism, which is sort of self-referential, but the idea of baptism, the concept of baptism, a life of baptism that Jesus himself shares with us to become one in wholeness with Creator and all creation.
Well, I know at the end of every Virtually Sunday that you do, you always seem to give us a blessing. And I would think there's no more appropriate Sunday than this Sunday to do just that.
May the loving waters of baptism rain down upon you. May the loving, life-giving waters of baptism stir the heart within you, and may the loving, life-giving waters of baptism flow into this world through you. Have a great week.
Have a great week, everyone.